Pranams to all the blessed beings. Kevala Yoga Foundation is a non-religious organization which works for the welfare of mankind. In a series of talks today, we will be discussing about various aspects of yoga. Today, we will deal with what is yoga and what is yoga asana and how yoga asana helps in yoga. The moment we hear the word yoga, what comes to our mind is various postures that individuals hold. Yes, to an extent, it is true that yoga asana is a part of yoga, but yoga itself is not full of yoga asanas. What is yoga then? Yoga, as described by Patanjali, is called as Chitta Vritti Nirodha. That means Nirodha of the vrittis of Chitta. Chitta is mind complex. Nirodha is to completely cease. Vritti is activities of the mind or fluctuations of the mind. So, according to Patanjali, yoga means cessation of all the activities of the mind and stilling the mind. Now, Bhagavad Gita also has a definition of yoga. Krishna in chapter 2, shloka 48 says, Samatvam yoga uchayate. That means equanimity of mind is yoga. So according to these very popular definitions of yoga, yoga is all about stability or stilling the mind. It is less about the body. Where does yogasana fit in then? Yoga asana is one of the practices that is predominantly seen and followed in what is called as Hatha Yoga path. Now we will try and see how yoga asana is used to reach a stable state of mind. Now when we come to yoga asana, what is the definition? Patanjali has again described yoga asana as Sthiram Sukham Asana. So asana is posture. We hold innumerable postures throughout our day in our lives. Sthiram Sukham Asanam means any posture in which one is completely still or stable and has a sense of well-being or Sukham. So this is what is yoga asana according to Patanjali. There is something called as Tantra Yoga. Tantra Yoga is the parent yoga from where Hatha Yoga is derived. In Kamadhenu Tantra, asana is described as Atma Siddhi, Sarvaroga Nirodha Shakti and Siddhi Prapti. That means through these postures they want to achieve these three things. You all know that whenever the mind is in certain emotion, it creates a certain posture. Whenever one is sad, he or she sits in a particular way. Whenever one is confident, happy, gleaming with pleasure, they will hold a certain posture. So much so that the person entering the room and observing them will be at once able to understand that the mind is in that particular state. And they tend to ask, why are you so worried? You look very happy today. Now, having understood that the body reflects the state of mind, in yoga asana, they use the reverse engineering. They deliberately hold certain postures in order to bring certain feelings in the mind. The reverse is also true because body is said to be a shadow of the mind and the mind itself is responsive to the postures that the bodies hold. The Yoga Institute, a premier yoga center in Mumbai, has described what are called as bhavas. Now what are bhavas? Bhavas can be described as emotions or attitude of the mind. Now we all have what is called as intellect. This is called as buddhi or mahat in Yoga Shastra. Now this mahat is affected by what are called as gunas or qualities or attributes. In Bhagavad Gita, they have described three gunas which every living and non-living creation has. The three gunas are the sattvic guna, the tamasic guna and the rajasic guna. Now being affected by these gunas, the mahat takes a certain sheen or color, and these colors or sheen are called as bhavas. So the first among the bhavas is dharma bhava. Dharma bhava can be described by the following words in English: duty or sense of duty, commitment, discipline, and sense of righteousness. Now, dharma bhav is evoked and augmented by all the postures which are called as meditative postures. We have what is called as standing prayer pose or sthit prarthanasan. We have lotus pose or padmasan. We have accomplished pose or siddhasan. We have easy pose, that is sukhasan, and we have vajrasan. All these asanas in which a person sits to meditate in yoga invoke and augment dharma bhava. The next bhava that we have is jnana bhava. Jnana bhava can be described as knowledge, learning, a sense of discrimination, to discriminate between what is right and what is wrong, what is true and what is false, and also a sense of understanding and adjusting to the surroundings to an extent that one goes in complete alignment with the creation itself. So jnana bhav is evoked and augmented by all those asanas which are called as balancing asanas. For example, we have ekapadasana, vrikshasana, we have kakasana, we have mayurasana. The next bhava is what is called as Aishwarya bhava. Aishwarya bhava in English can be described by the following words: contentment, sense of accomplishment, strength, sense of well-being, generosity, etc. Aishwarya bhava is invoked and augmented by all the asanas which are backward bending asanas. For example, Hasta Utthanasana, we have Ardha Chakrasana, Chakrasana, Dhanurasana, Bhujangasana, Shalabhasana, etc. Now the fourth bhava is Vairagya bhava. The Vairagya bhava in English can be described in the following words: detachment, dispassion, submission, sublimation, complete surrender. Now the asanas which bring about this bhava in us and augment this bhava are all the forward bending asanas. For example, Sashtanga. You all know that whenever we go to the temple, we assume Sashtanga posture in front of the deity. Similarly, Hasta, Padahastasana, then we have what is called as Shashankasana, Mandukasana. All the forward bending asanas invoke and augment this bhava. So whenever we are doing yoga asanas, we initially, to train our mind, deliberately bring in these attributes or attitude to our mind and we perform the asana to such an extent that many schools of yoga ask us to close our eyes and perform the asanas, focusing completely inward and bringing about these bhavas or attitude in us. Having started with the mind holding these attitudes and performing the postures themselves ultimately lead to a augmented sense of this attitude. Even for non-believers who don't want to discipline their mind or bring about this attitude, if they just close their eyes, focus and perform the asanas, over a period of time, their attitude will start moving in this direction. Now, this is one way in which the postures or yoga asanas are going to affect the mind. Now, we have innumerable postures, as we said. Among the innumerable postures, 84 postures or 84 asanas are called as yogasanas because they had learned that these 84 asanas are very powerful in bringing about an internal change in the body and the mind. Now we speak about a concept called prana. Prana is life force or bioenergy. This is an essential component for all living beings. It is only because of this life force or bioenergy that living beings are living. The moment prana or prana shakti moves out of the body dies. Now, where does this prana lie? This prana is present across the body and it is in a free flow through channels called nadis. These channels, numbering about 72,000, are astral tubes. We cannot find these physically when we dissect the human body. Now, whenever the prana flows, because of the wrong attitude and postures that we would have cultivated along our life, the obstacles get created to the flow of this prana. These 84 postures are powerful in removing those obstacles and allowing the prana to freely flow within the body. And these postures, along with mudras and bandhas, create a certain conducive circuits within the body for the flow of prana. This brings about well-being of the body and then stability of the mind. Now, this is the second way in which the postures tend to create an environment wherein the mind starts moving towards stability. This is how the yoga asanas ultimately move the person's body towards the mind and stabilizes the mind. Now, we have already known that the definition of asana is sthiram sukham asana. That means a stable and still body posture in which a person feels good or a sense of well-being is established is called as asana. Whenever a person accomplishes this stable state, he is supposed to have had asana siddhi. Whenever asana siddhi is accomplished, the breathing generally starts slowing down and becomes stable. Now, how is breathing related to asana and how is breathing related to mind? This is beautifully explained by a shloka in Hatha Yoga Pradipika, chapter 2, shloka 2, where Swami Swatmaram clearly says, Chale vate, chale chittam, nischale, nischalam bhavet. That means whenever the breathing is rapid, the mind is unstable. When the breathing slows down and settles, so does the mind. So this breathing, when it slows down, once asana siddhi is obtained, also starts affecting the mind, calming it down. So these are the three ways in which the yoga asanas ultimately lead to samatvam or equanimity of mind and yoga sthiti or yoga status achieved. In the next of the series of talks, we will be discussing about how yoga asanas as a physical culture is different from other forms of physical cultures or exercises such as preparation for athletics, gymming and other physical exercises. Pranams to all the sadhakas.